Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, the United States government has officially made it so that way anybody on an FM or J visa now has to not only declare what their social media accounts are, all of them, but they have to keep them public. They can't keep them private. I find this to be a clear violation of the First Amendment, but it's really not. Technically speaking, it is legal. You don't get the First Amendment protections until you're actually in the country. But I think it's a slippery slope, and I wanted to talk about it here today. So why did the government do this policy in the first place? Well, they're listing it as a national security concern. And the problem with that is what classifies as a national security concern? You just want to keep people out by saying something's a national security concern when it's really not? You know, what is the definition of that national security concern, right? So, you know, they might be looking at like intense language, for example, with regards to political topics. It's like, well, wait a second here. If you're in the United States, you have the First Amendment to protect you. You don't. What you're going to say, you can't come to this country if you're using your right to free speech? In what world does that make any sense, right? And the last thing that I want to see is that we start to push this on visas, and eventually, at some point in time, it gets extended to some form of American citizen, right? Whether that's, say, felons, for example, or whether that's people who have mental illnesses. Why on earth would we ever stand up for this when, yes, you could say it's a national security concern? One, there's probably bias going on there, right? So if you're going to say it's a national security concern, you better specify exactly what you're looking for, and it better strictly meet those criteria. There can't be subjectivity around this. And two, there needs to be some form of transparent data collection analysis on this to actually show that the policy isn't really being perverted for, biased means, right? You're not just taking, say, one group from one country and making it so that way they can't even enter the country because of, national security concerns, whatever that means. I mean, who knows what that means, right? It could mean anything. So if this policy is not clearly listing out offenses and things that wouldn't, reasons why somebody shouldn't come into the country, and then it's not being applied in a fair and free manner, then we need to reevaluate what we're going to be doing with this policy here. And so, look, I think it's a slippery slope, the way with which it's probably going to be implemented. But, if you did want it, there are ways to fix it. I think we can all get behind people who are like, all right, look, if somebody were to say, I'm going to blow up the Empire State Building, it's like, this is the second I get to America, and you would be like, yeah, probably shouldn't let that person in the country, I get that, right? But in the same breath, there is a lot of privacy concerns there because you are going to be violating people's First Amendment protections, although they don't have them yet because they're not in the country. But once they do get into the country, then you would be violating those protections. And so I think it's more of a slippery slope type of deal here, right? I think that by implementing it improperly, you probably do more harm than good. And then I also think that there's that slippery slope element too. This could be extended to other groups of United States citizens. Oh, now it's like, look, if you're a felon, you got to keep all of your social media accounts public. It's like, whoa, that's crazy, right? And now I don't think they could do that legally, but you never know, right? Again, this is a slippery slope. I mean, things go back and forth every day. And so, it's just a matter of time till we see the reverse of some policies. And who knows if that would be the case in this regard. But could be, and something to look out for. All right, lastly, the final concern I have about this new policy here is that it's not appealable, right? It's not going to be explained if you get rejected. You have no idea why. And then it's also not reviewable in court. So what that means is you're basically like in the trial by Franz Kafka. You have absolutely no idea what's going on. Guilty or innocent, you have no idea what you did wrong. Right, this is just a completely, behind closed door thing. It's an internal affair, right? There's nothing public facing. You have no clue about anything. And to me, this kind of mirrors the Patriot Act back in 2001, which is one of Edward Snowden's big concerns, and actually, I think maybe the worst policy decision in modern U.S. history. And when I think of the Patriot Act here, it's like, what did Snowden say? He said he would never get a fair trial in the United States, which is true. He wouldn't get a fair trial in the United States. Everything would happen behind closed doors. And that's essentially what would happen here. You would be given a trial, but you can't even face your accuser. And and you could say, well, do people have the right to that if they aren't actually in the country? And you say, and under those protections, which is how the law is even a thing to begin with, and how this policy is even around. So it's an interesting question, but it's certainly one that we need to think about carefully here. It's certainly one that we need to be doing our research on and keeping a very close eye on, right? Because this could get bad quick. Who knows if it will? Probably won't, but the last thing you want is to have the canary in the coal mine die and nobody pays any mind to it. They forget to hear the music. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you guys enjoy it. Try to get us to 120 subscribers. Please be sure to subscribe. Helps out the algorithm. And always make up your own mind. Stay informed on decisions. And be open-minded. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen.